The warning lights flashed red across the command center of Station Alpha 7. Commander Hyun-Soo stared at the main screen with growing worry. The signal from Kepler 442b had been cutting in and out for the past 3 hours. But now there was nothing. Just empty static where the voices of 50,000 people should be. "Sir, I'm getting nothing from the mining colony," reported Communications Officer Lee. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, trying different frequencies. "The last message was garbled, but I heard something about shadows moving in the tunnels." Hyun-Soo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been awake for 18 hours straight, ever since the first distress call came in. Kepler 442b was supposed to be one of the safest places in this sector. The Vorthak Empire had built their mining operation there 5 years ago, extracting quantum crystals that powered most of the galaxy's advanced technology. The Vorthak were not just any alien race. They were one of the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of most species. Their weapons could destroy entire fleets. Their shields could stop almost any attack. If something had happened to them, it meant trouble for everyone. "Play the last." "Transmission again," Hyun-Soo ordered. The speakers crackled to life. A Vorthak voice, normally calm and controlled, sounded panicked and afraid. "This is mining station Kepler 442b to any receiving station. We are under attack by unknown forces. They came from nowhere. Our scanners show nothing, but our people are disappearing. The tunnels are filled with darkness that moves. Our weapons have no effect. We need immediate assistance. Repeat, we need immediate..." The message ended with a sound like metal being torn apart, followed by screaming that lasted only a few seconds before cutting to silence. "That was 6 hours ago," Lee said quietly. "We've tried everything. Emergency. Frequencies, military channels, even the old analog systems. Nothing works." Hyun-Soo walked to the large window that looked out into space. In the distance, he could see the faint glow of Kepler 442b's star. Somewhere near that light, 50,000 beings had simply vanished. The thought made his stomach feel heavy. "Sir, incoming transmission from Galactic Council headquarters," announced Lieutenant Park from the security station. "Put it through." The holographic display showed Admiral Tae-ho, a human who worked as an observer for the Galactic Council. His face looked grim. "Commander Hyun-Soo, we've received your reports about the Kepler situation. How long since last?" "Contact? 6 hours and 23 minutes, sir. We've tried everything. The Council is very concerned. The Vorthak Mining Guild is demanding answers. They're saying this is impossible. Nothing in the galaxy should be able to threaten one of their operations." Hyun-Soo nodded. The Vorthak had never lost a colony before. They had fought wars against entire star systems and won. Their technology was so advanced that most species couldn't even understand how it worked. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Hyun-Soo asked. "Continue monitoring. Do not, under any circumstances, enter that system. The Council is declaring it a restricted zone until we understand what happened." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in uncomfortable silence. Hyun-Soo looked around at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. If the mighty Vorthak could be wiped out so completely, what chance did anyone else have? "Sir," said Sensor Operator Kim, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm detecting something strange." "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings from the Kepler system. They're unlike anything in our database. The patterns don't match any known technology." Hyun-Soo moved to Kim's station and looked at the data flowing across her screens. The energy signatures were massive, bigger than anything a single ship could produce. But they moved in ways that seemed impossible, appearing and disappearing without following normal physics. "Could it be some kind of weapon?" he asked. "Maybe. But look at this." Kim pointed to a section of the readout. These patterns suggest something is harvesting energy on a planetary scale. It's like something is eating the planet's resources. The idea sent a chill through the room. Hyun-Soo had heard stories from the old days, before the Galactic Council existed. Tales of ancient machines that consumed everything in their path. Most people thought they were just legends, stories told to frighten children. "Keep monitoring," he ordered. "I want to know the moment anything changes." Hours passed slowly. The crew worked in shifts, but no one really slept. They all knew they were watching something that could change the galaxy forever. The Vorthak Empire had controlled dozens of star systems for over 1,000 years. They were one of the founding members of the Galactic Council. If they could be destroyed so easily, nowhere was safe. As the night shift took over, Hyun-Soo remained at his post. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The way the energy readings moved suggested intelligence behind the attack. This wasn't some natural disaster or random accident. Something had deliberately targeted the Vorthak colony. "Commander," called out Night Watch Officer Jin, "I'm getting reports from other stations in the sector. 3 more colonies have gone silent in the past 4 hours. Hyun-Soo's blood ran cold. "What species?" "1 Zenthari research station, 1 Krolix military outpost, and 1 mixed civilian colony with representatives from 6 different species." The pattern was becoming clear. Whatever was responsible wasn't choosing targets randomly. It was going after the most important locations, the places with the best technology and resources. "Send an emergency message to Galactic Council headquarters," Hyun-Soo ordered. "Priority Alpha, tell them we have a pattern developing. Multiple colonies, all with advanced technology, all going silent within hours of each other." As Jin worked to send the message, Hyun-Soo stared out the window again. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something was moving from system to system, consuming entire civilizations. The galaxy's most powerful species were being picked off one by one, and no one knew how to stop it. The worst part was the silence. 50,000 people didn't just disappear without a trace. They should have been able to send detailed reports, emergency broadcasts, anything that could help others understand the threat. But all they had were a few panicked messages, and then nothing. Whatever was out there, it was efficient. It struck fast and left no survivors to tell the story. Hyun-Soo realized that Station Alpha 7 might be next. They were close enough to the affected systems to be a logical target. He looked around at his crew, good people who trusted him to keep them safe. But how could he protect them from something that could destroy the mighty Vorthak Empire in a matter of hours? The red warning lights continued to flash, casting long shadows across the command center. In the distance, space looked peaceful and empty. But Hyun-Soo knew that somewhere in that darkness, death was moving toward them all. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their floating chairs, all focused on the massive display screen at the center of the room. Red dots marked the locations where colonies had gone silent. In just 2 days, the number had grown from 1 to 12. Dalmi of the Zenthari floated near the front of the assembly, her blue skin pale with worry. The Zenthari were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and advanced healing technology. They had never seen war in over 500 years. Now one of their research stations was nothing but an empty dot on the star map. "This cannot be happening," whispered Representative Korth of the Krolix Empire. His massive form filled his hover platform, scales gleaming under the hall's lights. The Krolix were warriors, bred for battle across 1,000 generations. Their military might was legendary. Yet even their heavily defended outpost had fallen in less than 3 hours. At the back of the hall, Admiral Tejo sat in the small section reserved for observer species. Humans had only been allowed into the council chambers for 50 years, and they still had no voting rights. Most of the advanced species considered them barely civilized, a young race that had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. The council leader, an ancient being from the first species to achieve spaceflight, raised one of his 4 arms for silence. His voice echoed through translation devices in hundreds of languages. "We have gathered to discuss the crisis that threatens our galaxy," he began. "In 48 hours, 12 of our most important colonies have been destroyed. These were not random attacks. The locations targeted were chosen specifically for their strategic value and technological advancement." A holographic display showed the pattern of attacks. Each targeted colony had been a center of research, mining, or military power. The attackers seemed to know exactly which locations would cause the most damage to galactic civilization. "What do we know about the enemy?" asked Senator Veltar of the Nexian Trade Federation. Her species controlled most of the galaxy's commerce, and the attacks were already disrupting supply lines across dozens of systems. "Very little," admitted Intelligence Director Zeph 9, whose robotic form projected calm efficiency. "Our best analysts have studied all available data. The attacks follow no known pattern of warfare. The energy signatures are unlike any technology in our databases." Dalmi raised her hand to speak. "My people's research station was studying ancient artifacts found in the Outer Rim. Perhaps these attacks are connected to something from the distant past." "Impossible," growled Commander Thok of the Vorthak Empire. His people had suffered the first attack, and his anger filled the chamber. "Nothing from the past could threaten modern civilizations. Our technology has advanced beyond anything the ancients could imagine. Yet your colony was destroyed in hours," Dalmi replied gently. "Perhaps we should consider that our technology is not as superior as we believe." The hall erupted in angry voices. Representatives from the major powers refused to accept that anything could challenge their advanced civilizations. They had spent centuries believing they were the peak of galactic evolution. Admiral Tejo stood up in the observer section. "May I speak?" The chamber fell silent. Most representatives rarely paid attention to the primitive humans, but the current crisis had everyone listening to any possible solution. "The pattern suggests an intelligence that studies its targets before attacking," Tejo said. "Each colony was destroyed using methods specifically designed to counter their defenses. This enemy learns and adapts." "What do you suggest, human?" asked the council leader. "Send a reconnaissance mission to investigate the destroyed colonies. We need to understand what we're facing before it's too late." "Absolutely not," declared General Corax of the Combined Fleet Command. "We cannot risk our ships against an unknown enemy. Our fleets are needed to defend our remaining colonies." "Then who will go?" Tejo asked. The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every representative looked around the chamber, but no one volunteered. The truth was simple. They were all terrified. The greatest military powers in the galaxy had been swept away like dust in a storm. "Perhaps we should evacuate the threatened systems," suggested Dalmi. "Move our people to safer locations until we understand the threat." "And, abandon our colonies?" roared Commander Thok. "The Vorthak Empire does not run from battle." "Your empire already lost a colony," Dalmi pointed out. "Pride will not bring back 50,000 lives." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives wanted to fight, others preferred to hide. A few suggested trying to communicate with the unknown enemy. But no one could agree on a course of action. As the arguments grew louder, Admiral Tae-ho quietly studied the attack patterns on his personal datapad. Something about the timing bothered him. The attacks were too coordinated, too precise. This wasn't random destruction. It was systematic harvesting. "They're collecting something," he said suddenly. The chamber gradually quieted as his words spread. "Through the translation systems." "What did you say, human?" asked the council leader. "The enemy isn't just destroying our colonies. They're harvesting them. Look at the energy readings from each attack site. The patterns suggest massive resource extraction." Intelligence Director Zeph-9's optical sensors focused on Tae-ho. "Explain your theory." Each destroyed colony was rich in advanced technology, rare minerals, or large populations. The attackers took everything valuable and left nothing behind. This isn't war. It's farming. A cold silence filled the great hall. The idea that some intelligence was harvesting galactic civilizations like crops was more terrifying than simple conquest. "If your theory is correct," said Dalmi slowly, "then we are not facing an invasion. We are facing a harvest." "But who could possess such power?" asked Senator Veltar. "No known species has the technology to completely consume entire colonies." "Unknown species," corrected Tae-ho. "We've only explored a tiny fraction of the galaxy. There could be civilizations out there far older and more advanced than anything we've encountered." General Corax laughed harshly. "Impossible. Our technology represents the peak of galactic development. Nothing could be so far ahead of us." "The evidence suggests otherwise," Tae-ho replied. "We need to investigate the destroyed colonies before the trail goes cold." "And who exactly will volunteer for this suicide mission?" Commander Thok demanded. Again, the chamber fell silent. Every representative understood that investigating the attack sites meant almost certain death. The enemy had destroyed the galaxy's most powerful civilizations without leaving survivors. What chance would a small reconnaissance team have? "We could send automated probes," suggested Intelligence Director Zeph-9. "The enemy might be able to hack our technology," Tae-ho warned. "We need biological intelligence on the ground." "Then, we are at an impasse," declared the council leader. "No one is willing to investigate, but without information, we cannot defend ourselves." Dalmi looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. "Perhaps we are approaching this wrong. We keep thinking about what we might lose. But what if we considered what we might gain?" "What do you mean?" asked Senator Veltar. "Understanding this enemy could teach us new technologies, new ways of thinking about the universe. The species that survives this crisis will emerge stronger than ever." "If any species survives," muttered Commander Thok. As the debate continued, Admiral Tae-ho quietly made calculations on his datapad. The attack pattern was moving toward the galactic core, where the most populated and technologically advanced worlds were located. At the current rate, the enemy would reach the major home worlds within weeks. He thought about Earth, his home planet with its 8 billion humans. They were considered primitive by galactic standards, but they had survived countless disasters through adaptability and determination. Perhaps those same qualities would be needed now. The council session ended without resolution. Representatives returned to their ships and home worlds, each hoping the enemy would target someone else first. But Tae-ho remained in his seat, staring at the red dots that marked dead civilizations. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, something ancient and hungry was moving toward the heart of galactic civilization, and the galaxy's greatest minds had no idea how to stop it. Captain Jamin stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, New Sol, listening to the emergency broadcasts from the Galactic Council. His ship was small compared to the massive warships of the major powers, but it had carried his crew safely through 3 years of deep space exploration. "Captain, the Council is asking for volunteers again," reported Communications Officer Wu Jin from his station. "Sounds like they're getting desperate." Jamin nodded grimly. The news from the core worlds was getting worse every day. 17 colonies had now gone silent, including some of the most heavily defended installations in the galaxy. The major powers were pulling their fleets back to protect their home worlds, leaving the outer systems to fend for themselves. "What kind of volunteers are they looking for?" asked Engineer So Young, looking up from her repair work on the navigation systems. "Reconnaissance mission to investigate the destroyed colonies," Wu Jin replied. "They're calling it Priority Alpha and promising full council support for any crew willing to take the job." "Sounds like a death sentence," muttered pilot Yunji from the helm controls. "If the Vorthak Empire couldn't handle whatever is out, what chance does anyone else have?" Medic Kyung Ho moved to stand beside Jamin. "Sir, with respect, maybe we should consider it. Someone needs to find out what's happening. If we don't understand the enemy, we can't fight it." Jamin studied the faces of his crew. They were all young for their positions, promoted quickly, because human space exploration was expanding faster than they could train experienced officers. But they were good people, skilled at their jobs and loyal to each other. "Let me think about it," he said finally. The truth was, Jamin had been thinking about it for hours. The New Sol was not a military vessel. It carried scientific equipment and exploration gear, not weapons or armor. By galactic standards, it was barely more advanced than the chemical rockets that had first carried humans to their moon. But that might be exactly what was needed. "Wu Jin, can you get me a direct line to Admiral Tae-ho at Council Headquarters?" "Yes, sir, but it might take a while. Human communications don't have priority access." "Do it anyway." While Wu Jin worked to establish the connection, Jamin walked to the main view screen. Outside, space looked peaceful and empty, but somewhere in that darkness, something was systematically destroying the galaxy's greatest civilizations. "Connection established, Captain," Wu Jin announced. Admiral Tae-ho's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and stressed, older than when Jamin had last seen him at the Lunar Academy graduation ceremony 5 years ago. "Captain Jamin, good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances." "Admiral, I've been monitoring the Council broadcasts. Has anyone volunteered for the reconnaissance mission?" Tae-ho's expression darkened. "Not a single ship. The major powers are too afraid to risk their advanced vessels, and the smaller species don't have the capability to reach the affected systems." "What about automated probes?" "We've sent dozens. None have returned. Whatever destroyed those colonies seems to be able to detect and eliminate our technology before it can report back." Jamin made his decision. "Sir, I'd like to volunteer the New Sol for the mission." The silence that followed was so long that Jamin wondered if the communication link had failed. Finally, Tae-ho spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Jamin, you understand what you're saying? This isn't a simple exploration mission. Every ship that has approached those systems has disappeared." "I understand, sir, but someone has to try, and maybe our ship has advantages that the others don't." What advantages? The new Sol is barely 50 years old. Most Council ships are centuries ahead of us technologically. That's exactly my point, Jamin replied. Whatever is destroying these colonies seems to target advanced technology. Maybe something simpler would have a better chance. Teho was quiet for a moment, considering the idea. It's possible, but even if you managed to reach one of the destroyed systems, what could you learn that our automated probes couldn't? Human intuition, Admiral. Pattern recognition that doesn't depend on computer analysis. Sometimes the most important clues are the ones that don't show up in sensor data. Behind Jamin, his crew had gathered to listen to the conversation. So Young stepped forward. Sir, the captain is right. Our ship uses older technology that might not trigger whatever defenses these attackers have. And our sensors, while less advanced, operate on completely different principles than Council equipment. Yunji joined the discussion. Plus, we're small and fast. If we need to run, we can probably outmaneuver larger vessels. Kyung-ho nodded agreement. And if there are survivors at any of the sites, we have medical equipment designed for multiple species. We might be able to help people that others would overlook. Wu Jin added. Our communication systems use redundant analog backups. Even if our main computers are compromised, we can still send reports back to the Council. Admiral Teho listened to the young crew with growing amazement. You're all willing to risk this mission? Yes, sir, they replied together. Teho sighed heavily. I have to warn you, the Council doesn't think highly of human capabilities. They'll see this as either a desperate gamble or a convenient way to test the waters without risking valuable assets. Let them think that, Jamin said. We know what we can do. All right. I'll present your volunteer status to the Council. But Jamin, be prepared for some resistance. Many Council members still see humans as barely civilized primitives. The communication link closed, leaving the bridge of the new Sol in thoughtful silence. Jamin looked around at his crew. These people who had just volunteered to fly into almost certain death based on his decision. Anyone want to change their mind? He asked. No, sir, So Young replied immediately. This is why we joined the Exploration Service, to go where others can't or won't go. Besides, Yunji added with a slight smile, if we pull this off, we'll be the most famous humans in the galaxy. And if we don't, Kyung-ho asked. Then at least we'll die trying to save people, Wu Jin answered. That's better than hiding and waiting for the end. 6 hours later, Admiral Tae-ho called back with the Council's response. As expected, many representatives had laughed at the idea of humans attempting a mission that terrified the galaxy's greatest powers. But desperation had won over pride. You have official authorization, Tae-ho reported. The Council will provide you with star charts and sensor data from the destroyed systems. You'll also receive emergency communication codes and extraction coordinates, though I doubt we'll be able to help if things go wrong. Understood, Admiral. When do we leave? As soon as you're ready. But Jamin, there's something else. The Council has designated this as an expendable mission. Officially, you're not expected to survive. Jamin felt a cold weight in his stomach, but his voice remained steady. Then we'll have to exceed their expectations. After the call ended, the crew of the new Sol began preparations for what might be their final mission. So Young ran diagnostics on all systems, paying special attention to the life support and propulsion units. Yunji plotted courses to 3 different destroyed colonies, looking for the safest approach routes. Kyung-ho packed medical supplies for multiple alien species, just in case they found survivors. Wu Jin tested every communication system, making sure they could send reports even if most of their equipment failed. As they worked, Jae-min thought about what they were about to attempt. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had been swept away like leaves in a storm. The Council's greatest military minds had no answers. Ancient powers that had ruled star systems for millennia were hiding in fear. And now 5 humans in a small exploration ship were going to investigate what had terrified an entire galaxy. "Captain," So-young called out, "all systems are ready. We can leave whenever you give the order." Jae-min looked around the bridge one more time. These people trusted him to lead them into the unknown, to face dangers that had destroyed civilizations. He felt the weight of that responsibility, but also a strange sense of excitement. "All right, crew. Let's go see what's got the galaxy so scared." The new soul dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and the crew immediately knew they had entered a graveyard. Where once a thriving mining colony had extracted quantum crystals from rich asteroid fields, now only debris drifted through empty space. "My God," whispered pilot Yoon-ji, her hands frozen over the navigation controls. "It's all gone." Captain Jae-min stared at the main view screen in shocked silence. The asteroid mining stations that had housed 50,000 Vorthak workers were nothing but twisted metal fragments. Even the asteroids themselves looked different, as if something had drained all the valuable materials from their cores. "So-young, start scanning for any signs of life," Jae-min ordered. "Woo-jin, monitor all frequencies for distress signals or automated systems." Engineer So-young's fingers danced across her sensor controls, but her expression grew more troubled with each reading. "Captain, I'm not detecting any life signs. Not even bacteria. It's like something sterilized the entire system." "How is that possible?" asked Medic Kyung-ho. "Even after a complete disaster, there should be some trace of organic material. The energy readings are strange too," So-young continued. "I'm detecting residual signatures that don't match any known technology. The patterns suggest massive power consumption, but focused in ways our science doesn't understand." Communications. Officer Woo-jin looked up from his station with a grim expression. "Sir, I'm picking up automated distress beacons. They're weak, but still broadcasting. Can you clean up the signals?" "Working on it." Woo-jin adjusted his equipment, using the older analog systems that the new soul carried as backups. "Got it. The messages are from different parts of the mining operation, all sent within a 6-hour period." The first recording filled the bridge, with the panicked voice of a Vorthak supervisor. "Station 7 to Central Command. Something is wrong with the mining equipment. The extractors are running at maximum power, but they're not under our control. We can't shut them down." The second message came from a different station. "Emergency evacuation in progress. Unknown energy patterns are draining our power systems. All transport ships are offline. Requesting immediate assistance." The final recording was barely audible through static and interference. "They're in the tunnels, moving through solid rock like it's water. Our weapons have no effect. Nothing stops them. They're taking everything, consuming—" The message ended in a sound like metal being crushed. "How long ago were these sent?" Jae-min asked. "According to the timestamps, about 72 hours. "But Captain, look at this." Woo-jin brought up a detailed analysis on his screen. "The beacons themselves have been partially drained. Whatever attacked this place took most of their power, but left just enough for them to keep broadcasting." "Why would they do that?" Yoon-ji wondered. "Maybe they wanted the messages to be found," So-young suggested. "Like a warning to others." The crew spent the next several hours investigating the debris field. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. The Vorthak mining equipment had been completely drained of all useful materials. The quantum crystals that had been the purpose of the entire operation were gone. Even the metal structures had been processed, with only the most basic elements left behind. "It's incredibly efficient," So Young reported. "Whatever did this extracted every useful atom and left only waste products. This level of resource processing is beyond anything in our scientific databases." "Captain," Kyung-ho called from his medical station, "I'm detecting trace organic compounds in the debris, but they've been broken down to basic proteins and amino acids. It's like something digested all the biological material and left only the molecular components." The implications made everyone uncomfortable. The Vorthak hadn't just been killed, they had been processed like raw materials. "Wu Jin, are you getting anything from the other systems that were attacked?" Jae-min asked. "Faint signals, sir. It looks like the same pattern. Automated distress beacons left operational, but everything else stripped clean. Plot a course for the nearest one. We need to see if this is consistent across all the attack sites." The journey to the Zenthari research station took 8 hours. During the trip, So Young analyzed the energy readings they had collected from Kepler 442. Her findings were disturbing. "Captain, I think I understand how the attackers operate. The energy signatures suggest they can manipulate matter at the molecular level. They're not using conventional weapons or tools. They're directly converting solid materials into energy, and then reshaping that energy into whatever they need." "That's impossible," Yoonji protested. "The amount of power required would be enormous." "Not if they're using the targets themselves as fuel sources," So Young explained. "The quantum crystals, the metal structures, even the biological material could all be converted into power to fuel the process. It's like they turn each target into a factory for consuming the next target. When they reached the Zenthari system, they found the same devastating pattern. The peaceful research stations that had been studying ancient alien artifacts were reduced to empty shells. But this time, Wu Jin detected something different. "Captain, I'm picking up a faint signal from the planet's surface. It's not automated. Someone is trying to communicate. Can you establish contact?" "Working on it. The signal is very weak, and there's a lot of interference." After several minutes of adjustment, Wu Jin managed to clear the transmission. A weak Zenthari voice spoke through heavy static. "This is researcher Lin-Ka of Station 12. If anyone receives this message, stay away from this system. The attackers left monitoring devices. They're watching for ships that might investigate." Jae-min felt ice in his veins. "Monitoring devices? Can you detect them, So Young?" "I'm trying, but our sensors might not be advanced enough to spot them." So Young worked frantically at her controls. "Wait, I'm getting something. Very faint energy readings, almost invisible. There are structures hidden throughout the system, watching and recording." "The survivors on the planet," Kyung-ho said urgently. "We have to help them." "It could be a trap," Yoonji warned. "If the attackers left monitors, they might be using survivors as bait." Jae-min weighed their options. Every instinct told him to help the Zenthari survivors. But his duty was to gather information and report back to the Council. If they were captured or destroyed, the galaxy would lose its only source of intelligence about the enemy. "Wu Jin, can you boost the signal without revealing our position?" "Maybe. If I use the analog systems and keep the transmission very brief." "Do it." "Lin-Ka, this is Captain Jae-min of the human vessel New Seoul. We're here to investigate the attacks. What can you tell us about the enemy?" The response came immediately, filled with relief and desperation. "Captain, thank the stars. We thought everyone had abandoned us. The attackers came 3 days ago. They're not like anything we've ever seen. They move through matter like ghosts, but they can become solid when they want to. Our weapons passed right through them, but their tools could tear apart our strongest materials. How many survivors are there? Only 12 of us left out of 3,000. We're hiding in the old artifact storage chambers deep underground. The attackers seemed interested in our research, especially the ancient technology we were studying. What kind of ancient technology? Automated systems from a dead civilization. We thought they were inactive, but when the attackers arrived, some of the artifacts began responding to them. It was like they recognized each other. So Young grabbed Jaemin's arm. Captain, if these attackers are connected to ancient technology, they might be much older than we thought. This could be some kind of automated system that's been dormant for millions of years. Linka, we're going to try to extract you and your team. Can you reach a surface location for pickup? Negative, Captain. The monitoring devices track any movement on the surface. But there's something else you need to know. Before we lost contact with the other research teams, they reported similar findings. The attackers seem to be following some kind of map, targeting specific locations that match ancient star charts. What locations? All the places where we found advanced ancient technology. The attackers know exactly where to look, as if they've been planning this for a very long time. The transmission was interrupted by alarms on the New Souls bridge. So Young's sensors had detected movement near the edge of the system. Captain, something big just dropped out of hyperspace. Multiple contacts, heading this way fast. The attackers? Jaemin asked. Unknown. The energy signatures are like nothing in our database, but they match the residual readings from the destroyed colonies. Unji, get us out of here. Maximum. Speed. Sir, what about the survivors? Jaemin made the hardest decision of his life. We can't help them if we're destroyed. Our duty is to get this information back to the Council. As the new soul jumped to hyperspace, Jaemin could only hope that Linka and the other survivors would somehow find a way to endure until help could arrive. But deep down, he knew they had probably just sentenced 12 brave researchers to death. The journey back to Council space would take 2 days. During that time, the crew analyzed everything they had learned. The enemy was ancient, possibly millions of years old. They could manipulate matter at the new soul followed the hyperspace trail for 3 days, jumping from system to system as Captain Jaemin and his crew tracked the energy signatures left by the mysterious attackers. Each jump brought them further from civilized space and deeper into the dark regions between the galaxy's spiral arms. Captain, I'm detecting something massive ahead, reported Engineer So Young, her voice tight with concentration. The energy readings are off the charts. What kind of massive? Jaemin asked, moving to stand behind her station, unknown. It's not a planet or a star, but it's putting out power levels comparable to a small sun. And Captain, the hyperspace trails from all the attacked systems lead directly to it. Pilot Yunji adjusted their course to approach carefully. Sir, recommend. We drop out of hyperspace well outside sensor range. If this is their base, we don't want to announce our arrival. Agreed. Take us out at maximum safe distance. The new soul emerged from hyperspace at the edge of an empty system, far from any star. But what they saw in the darkness ahead made the entire crew fall silent in shock. Floating in the void was a structure so vast it defied comprehension. It stretched across hundreds of kilometers in every direction, a twisting mass of metal, crystal, and organic-looking materials that pulsed with internal light. Smaller objects moved around it like insects around a hive, some the size of cities, others no bigger than fighter craft. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Wu Jin. "What is that thing?" "It's a construction," So Young said, her sensors working frantically to analyze the structure. "But it's made from materials I recognize. Captain, those are pieces of the destroyed colonies. The Vorthak mining equipment, the Zenthari research stations, even parts of the planets themselves. They've been processed and rebuilt into this thing." "A hive," Medic Kyung-ho said quietly. "It looks like a massive hive." Through the ship's telescopes, they could see the smaller objects more clearly. They were ships, but not like any vessels in the galactic databases. They moved with perfect coordination, following complex patterns that suggested a single controlling intelligence. "So Young, can you get detailed scans without alerting them to our presence?" "I'll try, but our sensors are primitive compared to what they're probably using. If they can detect our equipment, we'll know very quickly." For the next hour, So Young carefully probed the massive structure with passive sensors, while the rest of the crew watched for any signs they had been discovered. What she found was both fascinating and terrifying. "Captain, this isn't just a ship or a station. It's a mobile factory. The central core is processing raw materials at an incredible rate, converting everything into new construction materials and energy. The smaller vessels are like worker drones following programmed instructions from the central intelligence." "What kind of intelligence?" "Artificial, but incredibly advanced. I'm detecting computational systems that dwarf anything in Council technology. This thing has been designed to think and learn on a scale we can barely imagine." Wu Jin looked up from his communication station. "Sir, I'm picking up transmissions between the smaller vessels. It's not like any language I've heard, but the patterns suggest they're coordinating their activities. Can you decode any of it?" "I'll try, but it might take time." As Wu Jin worked on the alien communications, Eunji made a disturbing discovery. "Captain, those smaller ships aren't just random workers. They're scouts. Some of them are moving out of the system on different vectors, heading toward various parts of the galaxy." "Reconnaissance missions," Jae-min realized. "They're looking for new targets," So Young's sensors detected something else. "Captain, there are organic components integrated throughout the structure, but they're not from any species I recognize. They look ancient, possibly millions of years old." "Could they be the original builders?" "Maybe, or maybe they're just the latest additions to the collection." The implications hit everyone at once. This wasn't just a weapon or a ship. It was a library of civilizations, a growing collection of every advanced species the machine intelligence encountered. Each new conquest added to its knowledge and capabilities. "Wu Jin, any progress on those transmissions?" "Some. The communications are incredibly complex, but I think I'm getting patterns that might be status reports. They're talking about energy, levels, resource allocation, and something they keep referring to as the harvest schedule." "Harvest schedule?" "From what I can translate, they're planning to hit 17 more systems over the next few days. And Captain, one of those systems is Nexus Prime." Nexus Prime was the heart of galactic civilization, home to the Galactic Council and representatives from every major species. If the attackers could consume the knowledge and technology concentrated there, they would become unstoppable. "How long do we have?" Jae-min asked. "According to their schedule, the main assault on Nexus Prime begins in 5 days. We have to warn them." "Sir," Yoon-ji said carefully, "even if we leave now and push our engines to the limit, it will take us 4 days to reach Council space. and they've already proven they won't listen to human warnings. Jamin stared at the massive hive structure, thinking frantically. They couldn't fight something that size with their small exploration ship. They couldn't outrun vessels that had already proven capable of destroying the galaxy's fastest ships. But they couldn't just watch as every civilized world was consumed. So Young, you said this is a machine intelligence. Is there any way to communicate with it? Possibly. But Captain, attempting contact would reveal our position. And based on what we've seen, they don't seem interested in negotiation. What if we could learn more about how it operates? Find some kind of weakness? So Young considered the idea. I might be able to hack into their external communication systems. Our primitive technology might not trigger their security protocols. Do it, but be very careful. While So Young worked to infiltrate the alien network, Kyung-ho made his own disturbing discovery. Captain, I've been analyzing the organic components in that structure. Some of the genetic patterns are familiar. I think they include samples from every species the attackers have encountered. You mean they're keeping prisoners? Not exactly. More like genetic templates. They're preserving the biological information from each species they consume. It's like they're building a catalog of life in the galaxy. But why? What's the purpose? Before Kyung-ho could answer, So Young let out a sharp gasp. Captain, I'm in their network, but what I'm seeing doesn't make sense. What do you mean? They're not just harvesting technology and resources. They're looking for something specific. The whole operation is a search pattern designed to find traces of something they call the Makers. The Makers? They're creators. According to the data I'm accessing, this machine intelligence was built by an ancient civilization that disappeared millions of years ago. The machines have been searching for any trace of their builders ever since. And they think the Council species might have found something? More than that. They believe the Council species have unknowingly been using Maker technology. Every time we develop something new, every time we make a breakthrough in science, we might be rediscovering their lost knowledge. The pieces suddenly fell into place for Jamin. That's why they're targeting the most advanced civilizations. They're not just harvesting our technology. They're trying to reconstruct their creators' knowledge base. Exactly. And Captain, there's something else. The attack on Nexus Prime isn't just about conquest. They believe the Council archives contain the location of the Maker's home world. A world that's been dead for millions of years? Maybe not dead. Maybe just sleeping. According to what I'm reading, the Makers didn't disappear. They evolved beyond physical existence. The machines think they can bring their creators back if they gather enough of their scattered technology. Wu Jin looked up from his station with alarm. Captain, activity around the hive is increasing. More ships are launching, and they're bigger than the previous scouts. Through the telescopes, they could see massive vessels emerging from the central structure. Each one was the size of a city, bristling with processing equipment and energy collectors. The main harvest fleet, So Young said, still connected to their network. They're beginning the final phase of their operation. Yunji, get us out of here. We have information the Council needs to hear. As the new soul prepared to jump to hyperspace, Jamin took one last look at the alien hive. Somewhere in that vast structure were the remains of 50,000 Vorthak miners, 3,000 Zenthari researchers, and countless others who had been processed into raw materials for an impossible dream. The machines weren't evil in any human sense. They were just following their programming, trying to bring back their creators no matter the cost. But that single-minded purpose made them more dangerous than any malicious enemy. Captain, So Young said as they entered hyperspace, I managed to download part of their operational database before we left. I know their approach routes to Nexus Prime and the timing of their assault. Will it be enough to convince the Council? It better be, because if they don't listen this time, there won't be a galaxy left to save. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages while Admiral Tejo stood at the central podium, trying to get their attention. On the massive display screen behind him, Captain Jamin's face waited patiently for the chance to deliver his report. "Order! We must have order!" declared the council leader, his 4 arms raised for silence. "The human vessel has returned from the reconnaissance mission. We will hear their report." "Assuming they actually found anything useful," muttered Commander Thok of the Vorthak Empire. His people had lost 3 more colonies while the humans were away, and his patience with the primitive species was at an end. General Korax of the Combined Fleet Command laughed harshly. "What could humans possibly discover that our advanced sensors missed? They probably ran at the first sign of danger." Jamin's image flickered as the communication system struggled with the distance. "Honored council members, what we found will change everything you thought you knew about this threat." "Then speak quickly," demanded Senator Veltar of the Trade Federation. 28 colonies have been destroyed while you were playing Explorer. The galaxy's economy is collapsing. "The attackers are not an invading species," Jamin began. "They are ancient machines, possibly millions of years old, built by a civilization that disappeared long before any of our species achieved spaceflight." "Ridiculous," declared Intelligence Director Zeph-9. "Our archaeological records show no evidence of such advanced ancient technology." "That's because you've been using their technology without realizing it," Jamin continued. "Every major breakthrough in galactic science has been based on rediscovering principles that the makers invented eons ago. The machines believe you have pieces of their creators' knowledge scattered across your databases." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives refused to believe that their proud civilizations were built on borrowed technology. "Even if this fantasy were true," shouted General Korax, "how could primitive humans discover what our best scientists missed?" "Because our primitive technology couldn't be detected or compromised by their systems," Jamin replied calmly. "We were able to infiltrate their network and download operational data." Dalmi of the Zenthari leaned forward in her floating chair. "What operational data?" "Their attack schedule. In 72 hours, they will launch their final assault on Nexus Prime. The main hive contains over 10,000 attack vessels, each one capable of processing an entire city in minutes." "Impossible," declared Commander Thok. "Nothing could penetrate Nexus Prime's defenses. Our shields and weapons represent the peak of galactic technology." "Your technology that's based on maker principles," Jamin pointed out. "They know how to counter everything you have because they helped create it." Admiral Tejo stepped forward. "Captain, can you transmit the data you collected?" "Already done, Admiral. Your computers should be receiving the files now." Intelligence Director Zeph-9's optical sensors focused on incoming data streams. After several minutes of analysis, his mechanical voice filled the chamber with disturbing news. The human data appears authentic. The attack patterns match our observations, and the energy signatures are consistent with readings from destroyed colonies. However, the scale of the threat is beyond our current defensive capabilities. "Then we evacuate Nexus Prime," suggested Dalmi. "Move the Council to a safer location until we can develop countermeasures." "And abandon the heart of galactic civilization?" roared Commander Thok. The Vorthak Empire does not flee from any enemy. Your empire has already lost 6 colonies, Dalmi replied sadly. Pride will not save your remaining worlds. Senator, Veltar studied economic projections on her personal display. Evacuation is impossible. Nexus Prime houses 40 billion beings from hundreds of species. Our transport capacity couldn't move even a fraction of the population in 72 hours. General Korak slammed his massive fist on his hover platform. Then we fight. Gather every available ship and make our stand here. Show these ancient machines that modern civilization will not go quietly. With what? Asked Intelligence Director Zeph-9. Our weapons and shields are based on the same principles they understand perfectly. They have already demonstrated the ability to neutralize our most advanced defenses. What do you suggest, machine? Commander Thok demanded. That we surrender to preserve our lives? I suggest we listen to the species that actually succeeded in gathering intelligence, Zeph-9 replied, his sensors focusing on Jamin's image. The humans have proven more capable than anticipated. The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. None of the major powers wanted to admit that humans, barely 50 years into space travel, had accomplished what their centuries-old civilizations could not. Human, the council leader addressed Jamin directly. You have seen these machines. Do you believe they can be defeated? Yes, honored leader, but not with conventional weapons or tactics. Explain. Jamin took a deep breath before continuing. The machines operate through networked intelligence. They share information instantly and coordinate perfectly because they think as one mind. But that unity is also their weakness. What weakness? Dalmi asked urgently. They can't understand chaos. Their programming is designed for logical, predictable responses. They've been searching for their creators for millions of years using the same methodical approach. They expect other intelligences to behave rationally. You're suggesting we attack them with chaos? General Korax laughed. That's not a military strategy. That's desperation. Sometimes desperation is what works, Jamin replied. During our infiltration, we discovered that their network becomes unstable when it encounters conflicting data or illogical inputs. They literally cannot process randomness. Engineer So Young's voice came through the communication link. We could design computer viruses based on human creativity and intuition. Programs that don't follow logical rules, that make decisions based on emotion and instinct rather than calculation. Preposterous, declared Commander Thok. You want to fight advanced machines with primitive irrationality? It's worked before, Jamin said quietly. Human history is full of victories won through unconventional thinking. Sometimes the most advanced opponent can be defeated by someone who refuses to follow the rules. The council leader raised one of his arms thoughtfully. Even if such an approach were possible, how would we deliver these chaotic programs to their network? We'd have to get close to their hive, Jamin admitted. Upload the viruses directly to their central processing systems. A suicide mission, General Korak stated flatly. Maybe, but it's the only chance we have. Dalmi floated closer to the central podium. What would you need for such a mission? Volunteers willing to think outside every military manual ever written. Ships that can't be easily predicted or categorized. And enough chaos programs to overload. Their entire network. And you believe humans could provide these requirements? I believe humans are the only species that could provide them. We've built our entire civilization on controlled chaos. Our art, our music, our literature, even our technology development relies on random inspiration and creative leaps that pure logic can't predict. The chamber erupted again as representatives argued about the proposal. The major powers insisted on conventional military responses, while smaller species began to see the wisdom in the human approach. "Enough," the council leader declared. "We will vote. All in favor of authorizing the human unconventional warfare proposal?" Dalmi immediately voted yes, followed by several dozen smaller species. But the major powers voted no, and their combined influence carried the decision. "The proposal is rejected," announced the council leader. "General Corax, you will coordinate our conventional defense with all available fleet assets." "Wait," Admiral Tejo spoke up. "What if we authorized both approaches? Let General Corax prepare conventional defenses while allowing the humans to attempt their chaos strategy?" "Impossible," declared Commander Thok. "We cannot waste resources on primitive schemes when we need every ship for proper defense." "Then don't give us any ships," Jamin said suddenly. "We'll use what we have. One small human vessel against an ancient hive mind. If we succeed, the galaxy is saved. If we fail, you've lost nothing important." The casual dismissal in his words stung the assembled representatives. They had spent so much time thinking of humans as primitives that they had forgotten these same primitives had just accomplished the impossible. "Very well," the council leader decided. "You have unofficial authorization for your mission, but you will receive no support from council resources." "Understood. We'll see you after the battle." As the communication ended, Admiral Tejo felt a mixture of pride and dread. 5 young humans were about to attempt something that the galaxy's greatest military minds considered impossible. They would face an enemy that had consumed dozens of advanced civilizations using nothing but creativity and stubbornness. "Admiral," Dalmi approached him after the session ended, "do you really believe they can succeed?" Tejo looked out at the stars surrounding Nexus Prime, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, an ancient intelligence was preparing to harvest everything he had ever known. The new soul hung silently in space at the edge of the Nexus Prime system, watching as the ancient machine hive approached like a mechanical storm. Captain Jamin and his crew had spent 48 hours preparing for what everyone believed was a suicide mission. "Captain, the hive just dropped out of hyperspace," reported pilot Yunji, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Distance, 2 million kilometers and closing. Estimated time to Nexus Prime, 6 hours. Through the main view screen, they could see the massive structure that had consumed dozens of civilizations. It was even larger than when they had first encountered it, grown fat on the resources of destroyed worlds. Around it swarmed thousands of smaller vessels, each one a perfect killing machine designed for planetary consumption. "So young, status on our chaos programs?" Jamin asked. Engineer So Young looked up from her workstation, where she had been crafting the most unusual weapons in galactic history. "All systems ready, Captain. I've created 17 different virus programs, each one designed to behave in completely unpredictable ways." "Explain them to me one more time." "The first set are based on human creativity patterns. They'll generate random art, music, and poetry inside the machine network. The second set use emotional algorithms that make decisions based on feelings, rather than logic. The third set are pure chaos generators that will introduce random variables into every calculation they encounter." Communications Officer Wu Jin added, "I've also prepared analog backup systems that should be invisible to their sensors. Even if they detect and destroy our main computers, we can still upload the programs using equipment they won't recognize as technology." Medic Kyung-ho checked his medical supplies one final time. "And I've prepared first aid for multiple alien species, just in case we find survivors in their processing centers." The crew of the New Soul had spent 2 days thinking, like humans instead of trying to match galactic military doctrine. They had loaded their ship with creativity tools, random number generators, and analog equipment that predated most galactic civilizations. If logic and advanced technology couldn't defeat the machines, maybe chaos and primitive determination could. "Captain," Yunji reported, "the Council fleet is moving to intercept 2,000 ships from every major species in the galaxy. On their long-range sensors, they could see the greatest military force ever assembled. Vorthak battleships with quantum cannons capable of destroying moons, Krolix war vessels bristling with weapons that could cut through space-time itself, Zenthari hospital ships ready to tend the wounded, Trade Federation supply vessels carrying enough ammunition to fight for years." "Look at them," Wu Jin said with admiration. "Every species in the galaxy working together, for all the good it will do." So Young replied sadly, "Their weapons are based on the same principles the machines understand. It's going to be a massacre." As if to prove her point, the first engagement began. The Council fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed, creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids struck the machine hive with devastating force, and had absolutely no effect. The ancient structure shrugged off attacks that should have destroyed entire fleets. Its shields adapted to each new weapon type within seconds, learning and evolving with each shot fired. Worse, the machines began to counterattack, not with weapons, but with some kind of conversion beam that turned the Council ship's own systems against them. "They're hacking the fleet," So Young observed in horror. "Every ship that gets hit becomes part of their network." One by one, Council vessels stopped firing and began attacking their own allies. Vorthak battleships turned their quantum cannons on Krolix destroyers. Zenthari hospital ships began processing their patients into raw materials. The greatest military force in galactic history was being turned into an extension of the machine intelligence. "Captain," Yunji said quietly, "the Council fleet is being systematically destroyed. At this rate, they'll all be converted or destroyed within 2 hours. Then we go now, before they finish with the fleet." "Sir, shouldn't we wait until the machines are distracted?" "They're never distracted, Yunji. They're machines. They can fight the Council fleet and monitor for threats at the same time. Our only advantage is that they won't expect us to attack." The New Soul began its approach toward the massive hive, using sensor shadows from destroyed Council ships to mask their advance. They were one small exploration vessel against a structure, the size of a small moon, carrying weapons made of creativity and chaos against an intelligence that had consumed galaxies. "So Young, can you detect their network access points?" "Scanning now. I'm reading massive data flows throughout the structure, but the access points are heavily defended by automated systems." "What kind of defenses?" "Energy barriers, security, protocols, and—" "Captain, they're expecting conventional cyber attacks. Their defenses are designed to stop logical intrusion attempts." "But not illogical ones?" "Exactly. If we approach their network the way a human child would approach a puzzle, rather than how a military computer would attack a fortress, we might be able to slip through." Kyung-ho looked up from his medical station. "I'm detecting organic signatures within the hive, thousands of them. The machines are keeping some people alive." "Probably studying them," Wu Jin suggested. "Learning how biological intelligence works. Then we might be able to help them. But first, we need to get inside that network." The New Soul reached the outer edge of the hive structure without being detected. Up close, the ancient construction was even more impressive and terrifying. Organic and mechanical components were fused together in ways that seemed to defy physics, creating a hybrid entity that was neither alive nor dead, but something entirely different. There, So Young pointed to a section of the hull that glowed, with data flows. Major network junction. If I can get a physical connection, I might be able to upload our chaos programs directly. How do we get inside? The same way we've done everything else. We don't try to force our way through. We find a service entrance and walk in like we belong there. It took 30 minutes to locate a maintenance port designed for small repair drones. The opening was barely large enough for one person, but it led directly into the hive's internal systems. I'll go, So Young volunteered. I know the network better than anyone. Not alone, Jae-min decided. Kyung-ho, you go with her. If there are survivors in there, we'll need medical support. The two crew members suited up in basic environmental gear and crawled through the maintenance port into the belly of the ancient machine. What they found inside was beyond anything they had imagined. The hive's interior was a living maze of organic computers and mechanical processors. Data flowed through biological neural networks while mechanical arms sorted and processed materials with perfect efficiency. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time, a perfect fusion of life and machine intelligence. So young to new soul, she whispered into her communicator. We're inside. The network architecture is incredible. It's like the machines and their biological components have become a single organism. Can you access the main systems? Working on it. But Captain, you need to see this. I'm detecting human DNA patterns in the biological components. The machines have been adding genetic material from every species they encounter. They're trying to become living beings, Kyung-ho realized. They want to resurrect their creators by becoming them. So Young found a network access point and began connecting her chaos programs to the alien systems. Starting upload now. First program is activating, uploading random art generation subroutines. Oh my. What's happening? The network is trying to analyze the art, but it can't classify it. I can see processing errors spreading through their databases. The machines literally don't understand why humans would create something with no logical purpose. On the New Souls Bridge, Jae-min watched as strange lights began flickering throughout the massive hive structure. The perfect coordination of the smaller vessels started to waver as their controlling intelligence struggled to comprehend human creativity. Upload the next program, he ordered. So Young activated her emotional algorithm package. Suddenly, machine systems throughout the hive began making decisions based on simulated feelings rather than logical calculations. Processing schedules became irregular. Resource allocation started following patterns that made no sense. Attack formations dissolved as ships began feeling confused about their orders. It's working, Woo Jin reported from the communications station. I'm detecting massive system failures throughout their network. They're trying to quarantine the infected areas, but the chaos is spreading faster than they can contain it. Kyung-ho had found the survivor holding areas and was working to free hundreds of beings from dozens of species. Captain, the prisoners are mostly scientists and researchers. The machines were keeping them alive to study their knowledge. Get them to emergency escape pods. We'll pick them up once this is over. So Young uploaded her final program, pure chaos generators that introduced random variables into every system they touched. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Throughout the hive, carefully ordered processes began producing random results. The machine intelligence,